Hello again, it's Jessamy from Lit Crush. I am reading Rushdie with you. We are on chapter 2 of the Satanic Verses. Um, today's chapter, I would say, is all about the backstory of Gibreel. In fact, it's called the Angel Gibreel. I think what I'm going to do in these videos, just to keep things short and easy and useful, I'm just going to read a summary from Miles Cushman. I'm going to read the chapter 2 summary, and then I'm going to read you some prompts from the Vintage Living Text Reading Guide. Just so there's going to be so many stories and subplots to go through that, we have to orient with every chapter. That's just the way it is with Rushdie. You just got to remind yourself where you were. Sometimes I think reading Rushdie is more like an in the moment meditation than it is actually remembering a big story. Can reread it several times and it flows around me like water. So anyway, chapter 2, the angel Gibreel. This is Jibreel's backstory. Uh, he's thinking about this when he's in the flight before he falls from the sky. In chapter 2, the narrator reveals that Gibreel has always been fascinated by reincarnation. He had a great film career in India before the events on Flight 420. During his career, he fell critically ill but surprisingly survived. Shortly after his miraculous recuperation, he vanished, leaving co-star Miss Pimple Billamoria so enraged that she publicly humiliated him by informing everyone he had bad breath. Following his disappearance, a message was found in Jibreel's penthouse apartment. We are air beings with roots in dreams and clouds and rebirth in flight. Goodbye. A woman named Rekha Merchant hurled her children and herself from a high apartment building after reading this message. And you'll remember that name because she was the one flying on a carpet talking to him as he was falling from the sky. Gibreel tells Saladin Chamcha about his boyhood on Flight 420. Ismail Najmuddin was Jibreel's birth name. In Bombay, he and his father, Najmuddin Sr., delivered meals, like in those tiffins, with the very complicated symbols written on the side. Um, but then his mother, Naima, was murdered by a bus, and Najmuddin Sr. died of a stroke when Ismail was just 20. Baba Sahib Matra and his wife, a childless couple, accepted Ismail into their household when his father died. Baba Sahib Matra landed Ismail a position at a film studio, and Ismail used the alias Gibreel Farishta since his mother had always referred to him as her personal angel. He began in modest movie parts, but his career took off when he began portraying gods in theologicals, movies about gods, and so did his sex life. During this period, he began an affair with the married entrepreneur Rekha Merchant. She sold like antiques and stuff. When fell dangerously ill, he begged Allah to heal him and eventually concluded that God did not exist. So, as soon as he recovered, he went to the Taj Hotel buffet and ate as much pork as he could. That's actually a really funny part of the chapter and goes on and on about the bacon and rashers and sausages. While devouring the pork, he encountered Alleluia Cone, a blonde mountain climber, and fell in love. He promptly ended his relationship with Rekha, but his new relationship with Allie ended after only a few days. She had left town. Soon after, he abandoned his film career and boarded Flight 420 to London. So, I think we're being set up to understand Gibreel, to understand his basic personality before he falls and becomes transformed. Um, the Essential Guide suggests a few different prompts for this chapter. They say focus on color. Uh, First of all, look for places where the color white and related colors appear in the chapter. To be honest with you, I didn't spot any white in this chapter, but white is one of those colors that, you know, we use it so frequently, I don't think it would necessarily stand out to me. Like if you're talking about a white cloud, I'm not going to notice that description. So please comment below if you notice white being a big theme in here. I didn't notice it. But I did go ahead and think about other colors that stood out to me in the chapter. One of the jokes is that Gibreel has really bad breath. When he abandoned his acting partner, she told everyone that he had bad breath, and It's referred to as ochre sulfur on page 13 if you're using the Picador version paperback. Ochre sulfur, I think that's a great color to describe bad breath. And then on page 18, he talks about the black and yellow and red runner system signals painted on the tiffins. That was a flashback to his childhood. And then on page 25, I saw when he was in the theologicals and acting in the movies about gods, he played Ganesha and he wore a pendulous gray mask because he was an elephant god in that movie. So, this reminds me of when I first read Midnight's Children. I remember seeing a lot of green and yellow and saffron and orange, a lot of like warmish colors. I guess green is not warm, but and I remember thinking, those colors remind me of the Indian flag. I wonder if he did that on purpose, since Midnight's Children was about the nation of India, the mythology of the nation of India. And I wondered if he wanted everything to be cast in the colors of the flag to remind the reader, this is about national identity. So I don't know. I don't know if he agrees with the critics that wrote this book saying that white is an important color. White, I mean, I know white can signify funeral rites in India. I've heard that before. And of course, we all have associations with purity and white, uh, white fabric being clean. I don't think this book was written, you know, some years ago, so I don't think it's necessarily. I don't know if it's meant to be racial or not. Tell me if you disagree with that. Um, so anyway, chapter 2, Gibreel's backstory, lots of great details. Um, he's turning his back on his religion, and now I think that's setting us up for his transformation as the mouthpiece of the prophet later in the book, which is great irony. He left it behind. He left his girlfriend from India behind for an American, right? And it didn't work out. He left his religion behind, and then he became inhabited by the prophet. I mean, he has a lot of contradictions. I mean, who can't relate to that? So while I have you here, I want to tell you about a book I just started. It's called African Founders by David Hackett Fischer. This guy can write really beautiful books. I'd heard about it from Nick Gillespie on the Reason Roundtable podcast. He always has great book recommendations. And he called this a rich history of slaves and emancipated people in America, going way back to the 17th century or even before in some of these cases. And I think what David Hackett Fischer is doing is trying to show the many, many histories, the many, many, many stories of slaves exerting their limited autonomy to great effect. Um, I just I just adore some of these chapters. Now, the book is organized by region of the United States. He's a big believer in the regional identity of the United States. He wrote another book. One second. He wrote another book called Albion Sea. This is about the different groups of um, uh, British people that settled early America and how the culture established in each of these regions affected the people that came after. So I'm in Minnesota. My people came a lot later than the British, but the way that the land was settled and the cultural ways that were established by these early settlers further out east may reflect some of the attitudes and beliefs I have as an American that grew up in a region originally settled by people that moved from the East Coast that was settled by British people. It's a really neat idea. I like this, and it might help us understand a little bit what makes Americans stick out so much. Uh, you can call it exceptionalism, or you can call it being obnoxious. I don't. This is a value neutral statement, but there is something identifiable about Americans, I think. And so this is this guy's effort to explain why we are extra special. So I'm very, very pleased with this. Maybe later I'll do a full book review and read you some of the anecdotes. But I mean, we're talking about slaves suing their masters for freedom in the Dutch established, uh, Puritan established um, New England area and winning their freedom. I didn't know these things happened. I mean, they certainly weren't the majority, but the ingenuity and the purpose to emancipate oneself was there from the jump in the New World, and it just continued on and continued on. I mean, it's just really inspiring. So the plan next week, let's do chapter 3, and then reading Rushdie, and then please, I know some of you are watching, I can see the metrics on my video, my dashboard. Please like and comment and subscribe. I want to hear from you. I want to know who's reading or who has read other books that remind you of this. I want to hear what you make of this sort of dense, crazy river of words that just carries you along. How do you experience it? Does it frustrate you? Does it make you happy? I get intense happiness reading it in the moment, but then I get frustrated later when I try to describe it to someone else and I find that a plot summary just doesn't cut it. A plot summary is useful with Rushdie to get you thinking about the way you felt when you were in it. So, um, this can be really challenging to talk about with other people. So, bear with me. Um, we'll see you in a week with chapter 3, if not before. And keep watching and hey, talk to me. Tell me what you think. Okay. Bye.